the newsroom to say, hey, we want to do a piece on fire escapes and to let people know that there's fire escapes out there in case there's a fire you can get out. They want to do like a 1-minute piece. I told them that on average 75+% of everything I look at fails immediately or has emergency repairs that needs to be done. She didn't believe me, so she came in. We went down to our theater district. I gave her 15 minutes of training on how to look for the obvious, and this is what came of it.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him.
Oh, I was scared to death.
But the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So that over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results. Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings. Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal. Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread. So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files, but there's no fire escape certification. To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports. There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules. And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes.
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
Not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track. How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made. Would you talk to us on camera about this? No? But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law. The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional. Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
Quick question. Who has written a fire escape violation in the past year? 2. In the whole year, there's only 2 violations that have been written up. Now, I did that in Washington, D.C. Same kind of response. In Philadelphia, same response. What it is, you can write the violation, you just don't know how to cure it. You can write the violation, you don't know what code to basically address to it. And a lot of times after you write the violation, the owner comes back to you and says, I'm calling around, nobody wants to touch this, nobody knows what to do. So what do you do when you write violations that people can't cure? You stop writing violations. All right. So with that was in 2003 that happened. Let me tell you some of the triggers. Write this down. This is going to be very helpful. What they did in Boston to immediately get this on a automatic is every building permit ever issued, to close the permit, you need a copy of your current certification. So that's what the building department did. To basically make it, they should have made it a checklist item. So you can issue a permit, but to close the permit, guess what you need? A copy of the certification, a 5-year certification. So if you have multiple permits throughout the year, guess what you use? You use the same certificate. You don't have to get a new one. It's good for 5 years. Smoke detector sign-offs, so people can occupy a building. Guess what you have to have with that as a checklist item? Because if the smoke goes off, guess what you're going to run to? So if they don't have one, you don't stop the process. You sign off their smokes. But now you've got a checklist item there that says, what don't they have? They don't have a fire escape affidavit. So smoke detectors, sprinkler systems. When they submit their yearly sprinkler test, is it yearly or 3 years or 5? Whatever their cycle is, what should a sprinkler system include as part, and again, it's just a checklist item, and it'll keep bringing fire escapes to the forefront. Just a checklist item asking for a copy. Are you ordering a test? You're asking for a copy of something they're already supposed to have. So there's 3 things so that you don't change anything in the routine of your business and your activities. You're not adding any more, but your building department now will not close a permit without a current certificate. Your fire department will not sign off a smoke, will sign off a smoke, but it has a check, it has to have an attachment to it, which is the smoke detector, and your sprinkler system. Any other tests you guys can think of that would tie in with the fire escapes?
You know, in California, I think there'd be a problem, and I at least know in my jurisdiction, I got a feeling that if you're looking for a sprinkler certification, you try and throw a fire escape certification onto that, you're going to meet with confrontation. They're going to take that to the city fathers. And the city fathers are going to say, back up. You want a sprinkler test or you want a fire escape test?
Without ordering a test.
Combine the two.
No, we're not ordering a test. We're asking for a copy. These are just suggestions. So politics and everything else you guys are going to run into, I'm just making suggestions of what Boston did. Because Boston, with the permit, they just closed the permit. They still got to close the permit. They just want a copy of the certification. They didn't order a certification. They want a copy of what should already be there. On the smoke sign-off, same thing. You're not ordering one. You're asking for a copy. You still complete. You still do your. You still sign off. You still finish whatever you're going to do. It's just it's an internal trigger for yourself saying, hey, this fire escape has never been. So I got good smokes, I got good sprinkler, but the fire escape is garbage, and now I know because I asked for a copy because it's just one of my questions. So you still close it. You still accept the sprinkler test. You still accept the sprinkler. I mean the smoke sign off. But now you've got an internal trigger that says, hey, there's no fire escape affidavit ever on this thing. Got it? Let's take a look at OSHA. 1910.37, write that down. Exit routes must be maintained during construction, repairs, and alterations. During repairs and alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes required by the subpart are available and the existing fire protections are maintained, or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides an equivalent level of safety. So, you got this nice building, 5-story, they just gutted it, and they got electricians and plumbers and everybody in there, and there's a nice fire escape that they're going to do when? Beginning or the end? So what do you tell them? You gotta do it now. They say, I don't wanna do it now. You say, no problem, who has to come in now? No, scaffolding company has to come in and do what? Put up a temporary stair tower and what? Continue. But now fire escapes, and I tripped over this when I was doing my class to Philadelphia. So 1910.37, so now you have 4 codes that help you basically reinforce what about fire escapes? That they need to be maintained, they need. So can you go into a building that only has one means of egress as an employee of the city? You understand? So this starts with you, because you can't go in there and examine and inspect. And it ends with the lonely electrician or the lonely plumber or the sheetrock guy, because he's not supposed to be in that building because the code, OSHA said so. And again, I didn't know, I just tripped over this year, because I was doing some research and I tripped over this and I said, oh my God.
I don't think, does OSHA require 2 means of egress at all times for everything?
This is, everything in the, well, you just told me about the basement. You told me about that basement thing.
No, there's lots of things, rooms that need 2 exits, but I'm curious, because I don't see that part of it. I would assume it says in these areas that need 2 exits, they have to be maintained. But
No, there's 2 exits is everywhere.
John,
No,
I do have some.
it's not. It depends on the number of people, square footage.
Well,
of
building code wise, I'm just wondering, the
Yeah,
OSHA.
I'm going, building code wise is that every occupied space, residential,
No.
commercial,
No.
Up to
No,
49 people
You
you
can have a
can
retail
want.
space or an office building with just a front door. Depends on the size of it, how many people are gonna be in there.
on one level or several levels?
It has requirements for, if you have a second story, there's a travel distance requirement, you have to stay under, number of people, and how it's protected, so.
It's just the way I read it, it's saying, there must be a list with this that says, in these places you need 2 exits. And you're right, for most of these commercial things, you need 2 exits.
Right.
But there's a subset that you only probably need 1.
And just so you know, there is some crazy, in New Jersey, I was doing one of these developments of senior citizens. They all had single-family homes, then a lot of them had on this hill, and there was a cascading hill on the backside. The law there is as long as the window is no more than 16 feet off the ground, that's considered their second means of egress.
More than
And
16.
so I understand what you're saying. I'm not here to fight code or say, but there's some crazy stuff out there. But the rule of law is,
You can survive after.
the rule, she'll roll down the hill. And so the rules, there's a lot of wacky rules out there, but the norm is that you need 2 means of egress at all times in case your primary means gets wiped out. And a lot of this really applies to a lot of the commercial stuff out there.
I think you have to look at that in a more general, so it says, exit routes are required to be maintained. And if the code only requires a single exit route, then that's defined for you. But again, if it's an exit route, it still has to be maintained.
Exactly.
Versus if you have to have 2 or more means of egress, then that also has to be maintained.
Right.
So look at it in a more general.
Right, and that's
aspect.
exactly, and that's its title. You know, when you look at its title,
The funny thing, you know
but
what?
it says exit routes, so is it one route or multiple routes? Again,
One
I
or
just
more.
present what I have here, but this helps you guys in helping get fire escapes to be the first thing people deal with, not the last thing. Because in case there's a fire on a building that's being renovated, and a lot of fires happen in buildings during the renovation process. And where do these guys go if the renovation process in a building is they have a central core stairway that everybody's gonna try to come down? That's the chimney, that's the worst place on any fire situation. They only got fire escapes to go to, and if the fire escapes are not maintained, then a lot of these guys are swapping windows out on the fire escape, painting the outside of the structure on the fire escape. They're cementing or recaulking all on this fire escape that was never certified to begin with. So here's the 1031 testing and maintenance. All two-way communications systems for area of refuge shall be inspected and tested on a yearly basis to verify that all components are operational. When required, the tests shall be conducted in the presence of the fire code official. So that's your international building code. What's that mean, this testing?
That particular two-way communication, that's your firefighter phones in a building.
Then why is it other means of egress?
Because that's where you find it, so that you make sure when you have multiple floors and you're requiring that it's provided for.
Yeah,
And this is also Seattle, and we don't know if they've amended this particular portion or if it's base code.
Well, I went and did some research on the California code, because you guys are based off the, 2012 now?
Well, we're going to be.
Yeah, and that's what it says there too.
Yeah, those are refugee areas in a building that they're supposed to be able to talk to the fire department and say, we're in wheelchairs, come and get us.
Yeah.
Those are what that.
I know, so where's the maintenance requirement here?
The California Fire Code is just what you got from him when you started this thing.
Yeah.
1104.16.7.
Yeah,
Oh, that's just the maintenance, yeah.
The fire escape shall be kept clear and unobstructed at all times and shall be maintained
Right.
in good working
Right,
order.
there's-
When?
that's- that- and
At all
there's
times.
nothing here about testing.
Right. Well, in LA, they have the yearly, on the reg 4, they have to examine the ladders every year.
There may be more stuff in the building code. I just pulled that out of the.
Oh, I know.
fire code.
This
is just that portion I'm showing is just focused on existing buildings, and there's probably other sections. in the
Well,
model
related to
code.
fire escape, there's even less. So that's the big issue that we have here. So here you have what Seattle did. They basically have a process. So you can either reinvent the wheel, or you can call certain people that have been doing things related. So Seattle has done a lot, including putting their confidence tests online. Portland went and did a code change on the fire code to include the tags, a description of what the repairs are. I'm going to show you that right now. So here's the Seattle, the latest, greatest Seattle. When you go online, this is what you're going to find. So copy and paste. You can download this in PDF or Word. And then all you do is just go up and take out the word Seattle and put your city in there. There you have an industry standard document put out by a fire department. Or you can just go and copy their questions and make up your own. We can also do it for you. So this is what occurred that made, when you have a fire escape code that says it must be maintained at all times, what happens? People forget about it, people go to sleep, and this is what occurred. So this is exactly what occurred, because our code was must be maintained at all times. And then they changed the code after this incident so that it was every 5 years. Then they went to sleep again. Now here's some live load testing that I'm gonna now start moving pretty quickly. In Boston, a girl fell 5 stories to her death into this, because she and her boyfriend were basically, this is on a hill, so this 5-story next to this 5-story feeds their roof that had a beautiful deck on. So what do? In the middle of the night after you come back from drinking and partying, go hang out on the deck, the phone rings, she decides to go get it. What happens if she doesn't see that the rail is missing on the crossover back to her window? This is a fire escape that the owner decided to fix the roof himself, him and his sons. So like a great mechanic, they took out all the bolts, lifted the fire escape, did all the roofing underneath, and there was 3 of them. There's a fire escape over there, fire escape here, and then the fire escape that I'm taking the picture from. And at the end, he had bolts left over, which means what? This fire escape, when there was 5 people on this fire escape, when it only fell about 10 feet. It used to be right there on the roof, and it fell to another roof just below, because this is actually a 3-story. So it only fell 10, but 5 people. There was a buyer, a seller, the 2 real estate agents, plus one of the condo trustees was on this thing. Nobody died. The first thing you do with your cell phone is call who? After everybody got hurt, who's the first person you make a call to? Lawyer. You ask him to do what?
Sue.
Call the fire department? And call an ambulance? So that's what they felt. So again, there's an Iowa case. Again, I've been an expert witness on a couple of cases. In New York City, this was one that I'm an expert witness in Iowa. The owner that owns like 30, 40 of these houses, and he puts kids in there, about 20, 30 kids living in these houses. His guys needed to do some work on the window over there. And so what he did is they took the fire escape off that used to be through bolted, and they put the fire escape back on, and instead of through bolting it back in, they lag screwed it back into the same through bolt hole. So a guy, was 2 guys and a girl were on top there watching fireworks on 4th of July, and then it fell from there, hit the roof, hit the ground. That's their blood. See this? See that screw? That was this is almost like a fire escape CSI. It was about 8 blocks away in a field. They threw all the fire escape there because the lawyers had to come back and do an investigation. This thing was in the middle of a field, and the screw that they used to put in was still in there. And this is us walking around. This is us walking around in a field where they threw all the pieces.
That looks like the leg of the staircase.
Like, how did this thing fall off? And it was actually, they carried the bolt all the way to this field. fire escape, you need to pull out, investigate. Oh, I got in the secure place.
Do you mind, gentlemen?
Like 8 blocks away, was in a field that the guy owned, just threw in the field. So this is us with a bunch of lawyers, walking around and we did the investigation, CSI. Then they put it back. They put it back not only through bolted, they put it back with a leg on it, with the 4x4 post made of metal onto the roof, not even with a pressure treated sleeper, right onto the asphalt shingles, you know what I'm saying? This thing was just a comedy of errors. So, other forms of load testing, you guys have seen this. Remember the day with no AC, where did people sleep? You remember when you have some fire rescues, you guys, for some reason, can't get somebody out the front door, where do you guys pull them out of? Through the fire escape. So there's many reasons why. How about parades? When people all come out and get on fire escapes and do what? Test the ticking time. This is all live load testing. See this guy up here? This, just so you know, it affects everybody. One of our network partners in Chicago, his dad fell 7 stories to his death, fixing a fire escape exactly like this.
Fixing it?
Fixing it. He was, he just took that one bolt out the wrong way and he collapsed and he fell 7 stories in Chicago. Weddings, pictures. How about the people, no smoking in the building? Guess where they smoke now? Potted plants, gardens. I got to visit the lady upstairs. Her husband uses the elevator, I use the fire escape. What do? This is where it goes. Kids studying out in the fire escape. Now let's talk about nationwide who inspects fire escapes. The building code says on design professional or others acceptable to the building official, meaning if there's a license out there somewhere. So structural engineers are inspecting fire escapes, registered architects are inspecting fire escapes, fire escape engineers, which is somebody with a license, are inspecting fire escapes. Some people believe you guys inspect the fire escapes. They always tell us, hey, the inspector was just here, he found nothing wrong, he just wants you to give me a simple little paper that says he found nothing wrong. So that guy did not do an inspection. If he finds the obvious, he'll write you a violation. Now he wants you to professionally have it examined and get a report back to him what else is wrong. So fire escape inspectors, again, there's only 2 licenses, one out of Boston, one out of LA. I carry both. There's no other licenses anywhere. So this fire escape right here, pass or fail? Right?
Yeah,
So,
quick question. We had a 1916 building, we got it certified. We got some company from the East Coast to come out. Who are they? I forget, but there's very few companies that come out
yeah,
and certify
there's
that.
only a handful. There's, we're the only fire escape company in the nation.
So
Fire
it must
escape
have been
services.
your company.
Well, what city?
I'm on it. We got an old 1916 hotel.
Yeah.
So that was you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're the only fire escape company in the nation because it's a niche market that nobody wanted. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get a local iron worker or a local welding guy to fix the fire escape, but they do other things. So when we say we're the only fire escape company out there, it's because nobody does this, only that. So that just to show you that it was totally forgotten. There is no fire escape companies in the nation. We're the only ones. And then because of that, there's no inspection companies in the nation. So we have fire escape engineers can only examine, certify, and load test fire escapes. And fire escape services can only repair, replace, and repaint fire escapes. But one of the reasons why we teach a lot of these classes, started the Academy and started the National Fire Escape Association, is to have a nationwide program to certify. And then I heard about the classes at the ICC, I heard about classes, the NFPA also does some classes, basically saying if you can create a program out there, because there's 1 million fire escapes out there. 1 million. On buildings that are 50, 75, 100 years old all over the nation. Residential, commercial, institutional. You can get me started today, but I have enough for 1,000 years. So this is a market that needs a lot more vendors to come back in. The problem is with the vendors, if they come back in untrained, they're only going to bring a Rust-Oleum can, a paintbrush, and they're going to fix it the old way that you guys told them before, which is scrape it, paint it. What about the structural? Don't worry about it. Well, we need somebody to sign off. Well, we'll get what's called in the industry a stamp whore to do what? And you file it. All this is If you receive a letter, an opinion letter from an engineer, and you just send them to Seattle, say, hey, thanks a lot for your letter, Mr. Johnson from Johnson Engineering, whatever, thank you. Can you fill out this industry standard confidence test on that same address? And he won't sign it. So this is that loophole. You're closing up some loopholes right now. That's all it is. But you have to retrain you guys to stop writing the wrong violations. You got to start training the engineers to know what they're supposed to be looking for, so they're not selling you garbage paper. And you got to get the vendors to stop welding these rust buckets shut and start really refurbishing them correctly. And you got to get these guys who are going to paint it to not contaminate the area with all the lead paint chips that are going to come from this thing. Well, it's all in that first page. If you read the guidelines, it tells you right there how each person is supposed to act. So there's some industry standards already out there. So does this pass or fail? The secretary called me and says, I don't know, this guy who wrote me this letter, this engineer, wrote me this letter, and I don't like it. He says, fix these 4 things, and then I'll certify it. We came and did an examination because of the secretary, and we condemned the building, condemned the fire escape. By the way, this is in Fort Lee, and this used to be the Hollywood, the East Coast Hollywood of the, not the talkies, but the silent picture era, was Fort Lee, New Jersey. And this is the building where they shot all the silent movie pics was in this building. So that's but he wrote this, but guess what he has on here, on the disclaimer? I neither performed a critical examination or a load test. So this is an opinion. So here's another one in Chicago. This is for about, I think it was about 150 units on a factory complex. And I went to look at this fire escape because the guy kept telling me, I just want a paint job, I just want a paint job, I just want a paint job. Here's the engineer's report. And the engineer's report, I said, you know, I like to walk it before I give you a price on the paint job just to see if there's anything. So when I walked this thing, that the engineer said there was nothing wrong with it. Now, by the way, a lot of fire escapes, the brackets are underneath holding it up this way. This is one where the brackets come down from above diagonally and then grab the nose. These are my photographs of the brackets. It's all rotted. So it's coming from above, and then underneath there's a nut that, you know, basically holds up the nose. They're all rotted. I was pulling bolts out with my fingers and stuff. So I told the management company, what engineer? So this is not about that the engineer group doesn't know what they're doing. Fire escapes are the bastard child of egress. You punish your engineers by sending them on fire escapes. So if somebody did wrong that week, and you got fire escape duty, you guys got that duty, right? What is it, hose duty? What is it? You pick something down that fire truck that you guys got to do that, you know, you got to clean out the exhaust pipe with a Q-tip or something. Yeah. Fire escape for engineers is garbage duty. They'll send the secretary to inspect these things. Because nobody wants, it's 1,000 connections. And you make, you know, you make 1/6 the pay. You don't get a nice $5,000, $10,000 dollar bump on these things. If you get $1,000, $2,000 on these, you're squeezing the owner because he wants to just scrape it painted because that's all he's done for 30 years because of who? This is the detention center. When you walk up to it, it looks pretty good. Just needs a paint job, right? These are kids 17 and younger. And when you look underneath, what do you got? Ready? Because of our testimony in a case of a firefighter in New York who fell through some stairs, which we're going to talk about, a metallurgist taught us and provided testimony that says to grow a 1/4 inch of rust, you need 25 years. Leave it alone for 25 years. Give it water and air all the time. It'll grow 1/4. If you have a 1/2 inch, it needs 50 years to grow. Never touch it. Just leave it alone. It'll grow. Right? So watch. You got that much rust, and when we go up a fire escape and we start inspecting it, we bring a little 3-pound gun. This is not a load test.
Okay, I think that's it. Let's get down here.
That's just so we can walk up the fire escape. Now,
what I'll do now is I have my red
on your belt and you ping the treads. So don't get on these fire escapes. You're not there as an examiner. You're going to be able to see. If you see square head bolts, how old is it? 50 to 75 years old. If you see rivets on it, how old is it? 75 to 100 years old. If you see hex head bolts on it, how old is it? It's good. It's 25 to 50 years old. So, can you see those from the ground? Can you see those from a door that you just opened? Can you see that from a window on any floor? Can you look out and see whether or not that thing's been maintained, and has it gone through its first cycle of refurbishment, which happens in what year? In its 25th to 50th birthday. How old is that building that you're in right now? It's 80 years old, and you look outside and you see rivets and square heads, and what do you say to the guy? Did he pass or fail? And he goes, no, I just finished painting it. You say, what do you pull out of your, what trump card do you pull out? What's that nasty word that you keep in your back pocket? Load test. Great paint job, let's load test it. Before you load test, you have to pass a confidence test. Correct, so an engineer is going to give you a report that says, I've examined this perfectly painted fire escape. There is no rust in any of the connections, and she's ready for a load test. So we'll load test it. Or you're going to get a report back that says, we're not ready for the load test yet. Because even though the guy painted it, what didn't he do? He didn't remove any of the rust in any of the connections. He just threw his buddy Charlie on there and they painted it. So it looks great, but upon further examination, what am I finding? She's not ready for a load test, and that certificate I gave you 3 weeks ago, I need to take back. So how many engineers are you going to scare the pants off of when you order a load test? Because they've okayed the load test. If they gave you a certificate in your hand, and you pull out load test out of your pocket, say, that's great, this is a great piece of paper. This is your nice fancy paperwork here, says fire escape is good. This is good, I'm going to put this in the file. What day are we going to do the load test? They're like, what? Yeah, we're going to load test. This is good. This tells me that you've done your job, you've critically examined the fire escape, there is no rust in the connection, and you verified all the connections into the building, that they're satisfactory, and they're going to order, and then we're ready to order a load test, as per all 3 codes. Building code, fire code, and FPA. So what day is it? Because I want to witness this collapse. I mean, this, got it? So, the collapse test. See, I got to take, every now and then I got to take something. A load test or a collapse test. See, I got to take something from, I've never had that thrown out at me. Are we performing a load test or a collapse test? But you throw that at any engineer letter that you just received, you're going to scare the pants off of some of these people. They're going to pull back their letter. Because they're going to write in their own disclaimer, it says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, and in the disclaimer it says, this was not a critical examination, nor was this a load test or destructive testing of any kind. You then say, well, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for an opinion. I need confirmation that this fire escape is good. So, yes.
For the International Fire Code and the International Building Code, are those verbatim statements out of the code?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let's read those.
Because you have the
Yeah, they're right there.
code section, because I've got the 2012 section of related to fire escapes with me.
So this
That
is the
language is not in there.
The Mass Building Code, which is IBC. I think are you quoting ICC or IBC?
You're stating right there, International Fire Code and International
Right.
Building Code.
So I'll give you the verbatim of the International Fire Code, the International Building Code. So Mass does the International Building Code, and it says right here. So open up to page 2. This is the exact building code for Massachusetts, which is based off the. It used to be 1028. 1028 points. I'm sorry, 10. It's actually on the.
Is that a state amendment or is that based on the model code? You know?
It's based on the model code. It says right here.
Well, hold on, because while you may want to read that, my point is that you're going to read something from some other state that's based on the model code. That what I'm professing is what you have on the screen as being International Fire Code. I've got the International Fire Code right here, and that's not what it says. So that might be that Seattle code, based on the model code. So that's been amended by the Seattle but that's not model code language.
Okay, I'm going to read you the model code language right now. So let's start with.
I got the model code language. I can read it for you, sir.
No, I understand. So let me read you on the one for the New Jersey Building Code, which is 1028.6. So you have on your fire code, you have 1028.6, which is what I'm showing you here is the shortened version of the New Jersey Fire Code.
Well, that's my point, sir. It's the New Jersey Fire Code. They've taken the model code and amended it.
No,
So-
the New Jersey Fire Code is the exact same code as the International Fire Code. Do you have the International Fire Code there?
Yes.
Okay, let's look on testing and, you have testing and maintenance for the international?
Yeah, that would be in, we've done this twice today, 1104.16.7.
Okay, so this one, I'm basing this one off the 1028.6, which New Jersey uses the International Fire Code as their base, and these codes, they didn't modify it in any way when they brought it into theirs.
Okay, the new codes have had some number changes.
Yes, that's why, even the building code went to 1,000, it was, yeah. Again, so you have to bear with me as I bring in the various codes. I'm using the International Building Code, and what the number the last time I used, the International Fire Code, the number I last used.
Yeah, sometimes they move them.
And sometimes they've already removed it, it's not even there anymore.
I had a question that had to do with the load test. What standard do the engineers are, when you say you want a load test, what's the standard that's used? Is that?
I'm going to show you a typical load test using sandbags. And with Tim Noor, we actually did the Hope Building.
You did mine too.
Did a load test there with sandbags?
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. So that's 100 pounds per square foot. So you take a typical platform 2 by 5, that's 10 square feet, that you have to put 1,000 pounds of sandbags on there. Usually it's for half an hour or an hour depending, but you load it with 40% of the load, take all your measurements, see if there's any deflection. Then you load it with 100% of your load, take measurements, see if there's no deflection. And once it's had, and again, based on the engineer, whether he wants to do it for half hour or an hour, once you've concluded that part of that test, you then move on to the next part. So I have a couple of tests here. I have one showing us doing a building in LA, 10-story, and a building that we did for Harvard University with the sandbags. And I'd like to show it to you so you guys can see how useless it is. And Damon, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they do a full refurb and they still load tested it anyway?
Yeah, but
It was kind of one of those weird ones where the guy says, I still want the load test. We say, you don't need one because you've met the satisfaction, the other evidence of strength. But the guy, I still want the load test. The same thing happened on the 10-story LA. Even though we did a full refurb, the guy said, I still want a load test, but you got to spend money. He goes, I got money. So it's funny how sometimes, even though you've satisfied, they still want the load test.
Well, it was a change of occupancy from a hotel, a very old hotel, to condo. And so, yeah, he wanted full liability moved off.
Yeah, they've got some special laws in the city that they passed to allow them to alter from the regular code, so it's probably just covered.
So what I did is I put in here, listen, I haven't, if you guys look on the back, on where the tags are, let me read, I basically copy and pasted.
What code section did you say that was? 1028.6?
Yeah, 1028 for the International Fire Code for New Jersey, which I have, I'm just trying to find out where I put it on their sheets here. I got the entire full language on here. So the one that's on here is the Mass, the IBC based code is for Mass. The NFPA is the full code on the IBC. I'm just trying to find out exactly where I put the 1028.6 for the New Jersey code, which is they're based off the International Fire Code.
So 1028.6.
And the language, the most important part of the language is depending on the structural condition, a load test may be ordered. So that's really the language that for space purposes I shortened it here. But let me just find exactly, because I copied it here for.
Is it printed in here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out where I put it, because I made some book changes, so maybe I took it out.
It's their amendment.
Yay. Yeah, I thought it was in here, but again, if you look on the International Fire Code, it's not very long, and here's the best thing, all the codes, as they keep amending and changing, they've never touched fire escape maintenance. So the 2 paragraphs we have has never been altered, has never been changed. in the International Fire Code, the International Building Code, and the NFPA. They've never, in all the code changes, they've never changed it. And they basically say the same thing. But the International Fire Code says that depending on the condition, a load test may be ordered, that's your part. The Building Code says you must examine, test, or certify, that's here, and the NFPA says the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. So the main purpose of this code information here is to say that all three codes state that. You know what I'm saying? There's always language in there, but it's very gray or very non-definitive that says the word test or maintained at all times, and we're trying to say, hey, there's language out there that basically gives you further clarification. Now, the state that did a lot with that was, again, Portland. They went in, they didn't change their code. They just added language into their code to basically departmental procedures and guidelines to basically describe what that really meant. To talk about tags, talk about proper inspection procedures. So I'll show you that as some of the next slides here. So here's the model, again, the one based on Seattle, and they have certain language in there that's very specific, including number 19 that really talks about that unknown into the building. And this is that yearly test that we talked about. Now this is, if you guys get a chance, write this down. In Oregon, it's called fire escape issues. FIR, so if you go to Portland Online or Portland Fire Prevention, the contact there is going to be Stu White. Now, they got the whole language down that includes not only how to properly, you know, the codes associated with fire escapes, talking about the tags, the inspection procedure. They even tell you they have a repair criteria on how they want you to, you know, sandblast fire escape. So they've got quite a bit of language in there, and it's all online. And they conclude with a checklist. Got it? So
That's a document from the building department?
no, fire department, fire prevention. In the United States, just so you guys know, 40 out of the 50 states, fire escapes are handled through fire prevention. In 10 out of the 50 states, the building department gets their nose into it, and sometimes they don't do such a good job. They're never on it anyway, so they don't care. Somebody dies, it's just a fireman. That's the problem. See, the building department is supposed to be issuing permits. Fire department basically is supposed to take care of it after the fact, when, you know, in the maintenance and the inspections and stuff. So there's but about 40 states, fire prevention is handling this. Here's the tags that we talked about. Again, the repairs and procedures and guidelines. So when you read this, and you go to Portland Online, and you read their documents, they're following these guidelines now. So basically, they didn't go and change the law, they basically added language to interpret what do we need now related to maintenance. Because we still have plenty of language there that tells you how to build one. And if they were building hundreds of thousands of fire escapes in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, they're building 1,000 fire escapes a year now in the whole entire US. But the rest of them are all getting maintained, and there isn't one bit of language about maintenance anywhere in the US. This is a typical tag in Seattle. They're 19 by 17, I mean 11 by 19. They're big monsters. That's what they look like on a fire escape. So if it's white, you're going down a road, you're going down an alleyway and it's all full of smoke, guess what your firefighters are going to do with that fire escape? They're going to get on it and fight the fire. All the information's there, including when the next inspection cycle is, who inspected it, and phone numbers, who signed off on it. So this, you don't have to go back to your office to find out if that fire escape, when's the last time it was examined. You know when you walk by it on your yearly inspections. This is another hidden gem. You guys have your fire towers. You know how many of your fire towers are ready to drop your firemen? I inspected this fire tower and I shut it down that day because I started performing hammer tests. Look at all the treads that started falling down when I hammer tested this fire escape. That firemen weren't using it the day before. So you got all your fire towers, and you guys have never had your fire towers examined. Look how much rust is in there. That's half an inch of rust. And you guys put all that hay in there, and you've got inside your fire towers, you got metal stairs that get water how often? all the time with soot and dirt. And guess what happens? This is the inside stairs. Look at all the rust growing there. See all the rust? So if the fire don't get you, your training will. This is on a old folks home for veterans hospital. It took 2 years to finally get the funding to fix that. You got a lot of buildings where trucks smash into these fire escapes. Housing projects, where we go there and look at, housing projects, Section 8. This is a city hall. Do you guys see the missing treads? It's like the parachute, it's the parachute you're never gonna have to check. It's that spare tire you never check to see if it's full. Here's a great one. This is a fire escape. In the East Coast, I finally got a fire escape off an elementary school. I took it off during Christmas. This is a kindergarten through 8th grade. Kids use this from the second floor to the kindergarten yard every day, 4 feet wide. I was actually able to save this, and I bring it to the shows, and I use it as a showpiece. But this is what we did. I basically took this fire escape, and I took it from 4 feet across, and I made it down to only 2 feet across, cut it. And then I started doing things to it that everybody else does, so you know how to not fix a fire escape correctly, including welding with lead, including rust, the rust that's in the connection, just closing it up with a welding rod. I did it all. So we created, it was rotting, but kids use this every day. We only had a week during Christmas break to get it out and put a brand new one in. But this is just to show that even though that building, which was a Catholic school, that was rented out to a French school who used it for kindergarten through 8th grade, they had yearly building inspections, fire inspections, and nobody ever noted that fire escape as a violation. It was the handyman that said, get this thing out of here before it kills one of these kids that has a rich parent. So, these are just some of the shots of what we did to basically fix. See the square head bolts? This is us when we took it apart and just made it into a much smaller piece. It's not even painted. This is how I found it. This is it originally in position, and this is the new one that we built off to the side. Kids, you coming out of the second floor to the ground, to the recess, every day.
And that's an exterior stair.
Exterior stair that's built like a fire escape.
Right, so in the term of fire escape, that would be included.
Well, the International Building Code says all exterior steel wooden stairs. So in Massachusetts, which uses the model code for...
So the issue isn't just fire escapes, it's also exterior...
Well, it says right here, again, subject to interpretation, subject to what code you're adopting at the time and all that. It says right here, all exterior bridges, steel or wooden stairways, fire escapes, and egress balconies. What's an egress balcony?
It's a collector that collects off multiple rooms, goes across and has a stair at either end.
Okay. It is also in the bridges. What do you classify as a bridge?
A bridge, well, it might even have a different term in today's code world, but it's a structure that would attach one building to another, or from
Yeah.
one
So skywalks.
skywalk. Yeah.
Bridge over a little babbling brook in somebody's private piece of property. That's a bridge, right? You have two buildings, two apartment buildings, and this one feeds the door to the other building.
That
Crossing
has
a
a
firewall.
different name, and I'm failing the name right now, but there is a term in the building code for that type of structure.
The point that I was trying to make is all exterior steel wooden stairs.
I can see, we have these garden apartments out in Southern California that have this type of thing. But,
Yeah. If it's
I
on
don't
some-
ever recall looking at the stairway real quick.
Well, I'm gonna show you some more.
Fire inspection.
Oh, be afraid when you do,
Yeah.
because a lot of them have crumbling cement as their
Right.
step.
So again, the main point is that if it's external and it's subject to weather and water and air, guess what it does? And unless you want to start carrying 3-pound sledgehammers and do this to protect yourself as you walk up and down wood or steel structures, tell you, don't walk up these fire escapes if you
Must
have
be down here,
evidence
so
that there's square head bolts there and rivets there.
And what I'll
Why
do
would you
now
wanna
is like-
walk? You already know she hasn't gone through a refurbishment cycle.
Oh, no.
Fireman's pole.
Really?
Now, this is in Rutgers University.
Is that 88?
The only thing this needs to be is on a frat. And one side is boys, the other side is girls. But this is how you make your escape. This is the only slide pole fire escape I've ever seen in my life. Has anybody ever seen a slidescape?
Yes,
Where? What's
on
it?
pictures on the internet.
We have a real one. In Elizabeth, New Jersey, there's a 12-story slidescape inside a building from 1902. And it's still part of their means of egress. So I'm going to show it to you. So we have some dinosaurs out there. Guys, you guys remember this, right?
Right.
This is that piece about Bridgeport. I just want to remind you that fire escapes are everywhere, and a lot of times they're in clustered commercial residential apartment complexes. And when's the last time you trained an 8-year-old girl to navigate a ladder all by herself, then dangle and jump down to the ground because the fire's behind it? It looks like it was her apartment or...
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up. Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
So one of the main reasons why we got to get onto these fire escapes, you got to stop going to rescue missions.